Did you know that the average American throws away around 80 pounds of clothing every year? Or that producing a single cotton t-shirt uses about 2,700 liters of water, enough to fill a bathtub almost 11 times. We're told every day that we need to go green to save the planet, but sometimes the advice we hear just doesn't add up. In fact, some popular sustainability tips can be more harmful than helpful. In this video, we're going to debunk 6 of the most common myths about sustainable living. From the truth about plastic-free lifestyles to what's really behind green energy, you'll discover facts that might surprise you. Get ready to rethink what you thought you knew about living sustainably and learn how small, smart choices can make a big difference. Let's dive in and challenge the myths that might be holding you back from making a real impact. Chapter 1: Green energy, more than just solar panels. When people think of green energy, the first image that often pops up is solar panels on rooftops. But there's much more to renewable energy than just sunlight. Wind power, for example, generates 9.3% of the US electricity, according to the US Energy Information Administration, EIA. Wind turbines, especially those in offshore areas, are rapidly growing as a clean energy source. And don't forget about hydropower, it's responsible for 6.5% of US electricity production. Even geothermal energy, which taps into the heat below the Earth's surface, is becoming a serious contender for providing clean power. But switching to renewable energy doesn't have to involve a big financial investment. Simple energy-saving habits, like sealing leaks in your windows or switching to energy-efficient light bulbs, can significantly lower your carbon footprint. In fact, the US Department of Energy states that weatherizing your home can save up to 20% on your energy bill. Small actions add up over time, and when combined with renewable energy sources, the results are impactful. Green energy also involves reducing energy consumption. A 2019 study from the National Renewable Energy Laboratory found that using less electricity is just as important as generating it from clean sources. For example, turning off lights when you don't need them and unplugging devices when not in use can contribute to a greener home. Chapter 2: Eco-friendly means expensive. Think again. A common myth about sustainable living is that it's expensive. Many people assume that eco-friendly products cost a fortune, but that's not the whole story. Yes, some organic foods or green gadgets may have a higher price tag, but the true cost of sustainability is often far less than you might think. Take reusable items like water bottles and shopping bags. You might spend a little upfront, but over time, they save you money compared to buying single-use plastic. The average American spends $1,400 a year on bottled water, according to the Container Recycling Institute. By switching to a reusable bottle, you can save hundreds of dollars while helping the planet. When it comes to energy-efficient appliances, while they may seem pricey at first, they typically pay for themselves. Energy-efficient refrigerators, for instance, can cut energy costs by about $100 a year. Over the appliance's lifetime, this adds up to savings that exceed the initial extra cost. Furthermore, growing your own food can save a ton of money, especially if you live in an area where produce is expensive. According to a 2017 study by the National Gardening Association, the average American household could save $600 annually by growing their own fruits and vegetables. Chapter 3: Plastic-free? The hidden costs are going zero waste. Going plastic-free sounds great, but it's not always as simple as ditching your plastic bottles. Many alternatives, such as reusable cloth bags or glass containers, come with hidden environmental costs. For example, cotton bags may be reusable, but they require more resources to produce than plastic ones, including water and land. Zero-waste living also brings challenges when it comes to packaging. Products labeled eco-friendly often have a bigger carbon footprint than expected. A report by the University of California in 2018 found that alternatives like glass and metal containers often require more energy to produce than plastic. There's also the issue of transportation. Glass bottles, for example, are much heavier than plastic, meaning they require more energy to ship. A 2017 study by the European Environment Agency revealed that glass packaging generates nearly 50% more CO2 emissions than plastic packaging. Instead of aiming for perfection, try a more mindful approach. Start by reducing single-use plastic where you can and switching to more sustainable options. But don't get caught up in the idea that zero waste is all or nothing. Every small step counts, and reducing your waste in any form is a victory. If you're finding this helpful, don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more tips on sustainable living. Chapter 4. Sustainability isn't just about what you buy. Many believe that sustainability revolves around buying the right products, like organic foods, eco-friendly gadgets, or sustainably produced clothing. But the real key to sustainable living lies in our behaviors and consumption patterns. Being mindful of how we live, not just what we buy, is crucial. A huge chunk of sustainability comes from reducing consumption altogether. Think about how much stuff we accumulate over time. A 2020 study found that the average American household has over 300,000 items. Every single one of those items requires resources to create, maintain, and eventually dispose of. Reducing unnecessary purchases is a direct way to minimize your ecological footprint. It's also about how we maintain the things we already own. Instead of constantly replacing old furniture, clothes, or electronics, try repairing or upcycling them. This simple change can have a big impact on reducing waste. In fact, studies show that upcycling can save up to 40% of the energy needed for producing new materials. Even small behavioral changes, like switching from a disposable coffee cup to a reusable one, have a cumulative effect. According to a 2020 study, 16 billion coffee cups are used annually in the US, with only about 1% of those being recycled. Chapter 5. Local isn't always better. The true cost of food miles. We've all heard that buying local food is more eco-friendly because it cuts down on the carbon footprint of transportation. But the reality isn't so simple. While food miles do contribute to a product's environmental impact, they're only one piece of the puzzle. It turns out that the way food is grown can have a much larger effect on its carbon footprint than how far it travels. For instance, food grown in greenhouses or with heavy pesticide use may have a larger environmental impact than organic produce shipped from abroad. A 2017 study in the journal Environmental Science and Technology found that local food isn't always greener if it's grown using energy-intensive methods. In some cases, imported food may be more eco-friendly. A good example is tropical fruits like bananas or avocados. Growing them in a tropical climate is far less resource-intensive than growing them in colder regions using energy-hungry greenhouses. While it's still a good idea to support local farmers, it's important to consider the growing methods, seasonal availability, and transportation emissions of each product. Sustainable eating isn't just about where your food comes from, but how it was produced and how it fits into your diet. Chapter 6. Electric cars. Not as green as they seem, electric cars are often touted as the ultimate solution to reducing our carbon footprint. But are they really as eco-friendly as we think? The truth is a bit more complicated. While electric cars don't produce tailpipe emissions, their overall environmental impact depends heavily on how the electricity used to charge them is generated. For instance, if you charge your electric vehicle, EV, in a region that uses coal-fired power plants, your car is indirectly contributing to pollution. The Union of Concerned Scientists reports that, on average, an EV produces fewer emissions than a gas-powered car, but that advantage varies depending on the local power grid. Another challenge is the production of EV batteries. Mining the materials needed for batteries, like lithium and cobalt, is resource-intensive and can cause environmental damage. According to a 2020 report by the European Commission, battery production for electric cars emits up to 70% more CO2 than producing conventional car engines. Despite these challenges, electric cars are still a step forward. When paired with renewable energy sources like solar or wind power, they can have a much lower environmental impact. Still, reducing car usage through public transportation or cycling remains an even greener option for cutting down on emissions. If you enjoyed this video and want more tips on how to live a truly sustainable lifestyle, don't forget to subscribe.